I'm Charlie Campbell, director producer of Fist of the North Star, and we're here today with four of the principal actors in Volume 1. And if you will, say your name and the name of the character you play.
I'm Christopher Lovelace. I'm playing Toby.
I'm Robert Kraft. I'm the voice of Kenshiro.
And John Paul Shepard, King Sanga.
Katie Gillette Thornton, I play Sarah.
Right, cool. What is your character's part in the show, and what are their intentions, do you think?
So I would think Toby's kind of he's the sidekick, but he's also a scavenger. He's human, but he's got a very adventurous feel. He needs to buddy up and kill all the bad guys, or at least find. There's the issue with his brother.
Who's the kid in the picture?
Oh, that's Beasta. He's my kid brother, see? The only one I've got.
And there's the love interest with Sarah, too. I think it's...
Yeah, he gives a few hints about the middle of the episode there.
Yeah.
How about you, Robert?
Well, Kenshiro is the archetypal lone hero messiah figure that's come to destroy evil and change the world. You don't really know that in the first episode,
Right.
but he's a very iconic figure that pops up in the art and literature of just about every culture that ever existed. The one man that can make the difference,
Right.
the one man who has all the answers, and so it's a lot of responsibility for me.
You are not the one who is called to build a new kingdom, Sangha. That shall be the work of many young heroes to come.
His intentions are kind of, I guess, liberal. He's really concerned with little people, with the small people, the people who need water, the people who need shelter.
Right.
He's not really caught up in the politics of the time. He's mostly angry at the way people are being treated without any compassion, without any concern for their needs, and that all these megalomaniac rulers are exploiting these people.
Right.
And so I think he's kind of an appropriate figure for our time. If you want me to get that.
Sorry.
There's another question coming in from the viewers.
Yes, go ahead, Colin.
How about you, John Paul? What's your guy all about?
Pretty much the opposite of everything he just said.
Right.
Make it the dark side. He's your classic evil king.
Right. He's got
The bad guy.
not as much power, but with his army and his karate skills, he can stand up to him pretty well. At least
Sure,
until the
sure.
end.
He's definitely a potential threat at minimum.
Right. What are some of the things he uses to influence the crowds to keep his power?
Well, he uses emotion. He uses, of course, sheer force and intimidation.
Why don't we discuss this as men, Kenshiro? Join forces with me. We can live the high life together. And you can have this city when it comes the time for me to die. Here, we have water, and people are subservient to the gods we create, and soldiers who have sworn their loyalty. All this shall be yours one day.
Typical evil fellow.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
How about you, Katie? What do you think your character's role in the show is?
I think she's I don't want to say the good character. She represents good. She's a healer.
Sora!
I cannot work miracles. All I can do is heal the sick and ease people's pain.
Maybe she's the feminine energy.
The only feminine energy. pretty
Not
much.
that feminine equals good.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
How do you get into character, and what experiences do you draw from to play these respective parts in the show? Is there anything that you especially
Not particularly. Just try to look at the environment that the character is in. How's he feeling? How does he look? particularly
Right.
in my area. Does he look like a young punk, or is a serious badass, basically? I'm trying to look at the situations he's in. Is he a fighter? Is he a lover? Is he the comic relief? Trying to mold the voice and the actions itself after that.
Right.
Everyone tells me to forget about the past.
Initially, it's the what the character looks like is the first thing that you start. I immediately start adjusting my voice to suit what I think that guy would sound like, or that thing would sound like, depending on what we're doing. And then for like particularly this character, I drew on my own sense of self-righteousness, partly because that's kind of his thing, but also some martial arts background, my experience as a fugitive recovery investigator, as a private investigator, and the training that went in, that you had to, the physical training that you had to go through to be good at those jobs. And sometimes just, I draw on my, the last barroom brawl I had 20 years ago or whatever to get the energy up. But the thing about my character is he's motivated by this righteous anger, and it's very therapeutic to kind of be there with him without the actual motivation in front of you. So that it's a lot, depending on the character. There's the image. For me, it comes with the image first, the image of the character, what he looks like, the emotions that he's going through, and my own emotional correlates with that emotion, and then some life experience that I can draw on. So I kind of have to go through that 3-step process, depending on the intensity of the scene.
Right. Makes sense. And how do you get so evil, John Paul?
Well, that comes easy for me. No, just kidding. But the first few seconds, the first few minutes in the booth is the hardest part, because that's when you kind of bring in all of this in. You do get a look at the character for the first time. You get a look at the other characters around you, and even if they're still in Japanese, you get an understanding of basically what's going on and what the relationship is. And it takes me a few minutes. Of course, we depend a whole lot on you to give us specifics as to what your needs are out of the scene too. But after a few minutes, you start to loosen up, start to get to know the guy, or I do, and it gives you a chance to play it a little bit, take your chances or whatever.
Well, I guess I do everything they do. I look at the cartoon, I put myself in the place.
Is there a way you play this particular character as opposed to the one you were in Zone of the Enders?
Yeah, she's a lot different. She's more grounded and maybe sort of on a higher plane spiritually.
Right.
I sort of think of Glinda the Good Witch or Snow White or something.
Yeah.
Like I can touch people just by being serene.
Another thing, actually, that we should mention, I think all of us really have a great deal of respect for the Japanese versions of these films, and I try to stay as tightly within the parameters of what the original actor was doing, the person who created the character, because we are kind of doing it's not completely original what we're doing. We're extrapolating into English and into the American culture this Japanese story. And I try to show as much respect for that as possible within the parameters of my own voice and character.
Right.
Because a lot of people have a problem with these things being translated. And I think that can be, hopefully their objections can be allayed by performances that show respect for the original intent of the original actors and directors and so
You
forth.
mean just being realistic instead of imitating what they did, or?
Yeah, well, taking what they did as a cue for where you're going, because the way these things were made was these people went in the studio. If it's like animation that I know about, they went in the studio and they recorded all these parts, and then the animation was done. For a lot of it, is that true or not?
I think they do it the opposite way in Japan.
Okay.
Actually. Like Disney does it the way
How do
you
they get the
talking about.
flaps?
That's a good question. I
Okay.
guess they must have an idea of what it's supposed to be,
Mhm.
but then not as exact as Disney does, where they
Yeah.
actually look at people's faces and do it completely after the fact.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think seeing some of the extras they had on some of the other DVDs where they had Japanese actors.
Oh, yeah?
And kind of stand around like it's an old radio show.
Oh, really?
And
That's
you have
cool.
the whole crew there, and,
Mhm.
and there's a screen, and at least the one I saw, that's how they did it.
Cool. But even so, they created the original character, and we're kind of coming after them, and we can be as original with it as we want. I'm just talking about showing respect for the original intent of the artists, and the voice artists and the animators and the director and the creator. But you can only do that to a certain extent because some things don't work in our culture
Right.
that work in Japan. Certain characterizations would seem very strange if we tried to imitate them exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Like I try to keep the original intent, but try to widen the vocal palette
Exactly.
for the English audience, because
Just get some differentiation
yeah,
in the
yeah.
voices.
If you can listen to it without seeing the screen and you're entertained like you
Mhm.
would be on a radio show,
Mhm.
to me, then it's been done right.
Yeah.
Because then the audio stands on its own.
Cool.
You guys, the audio wouldn't stand on its own. I really only do so many voices.
Be no
I
audio.
can never do Katie's voice.
No, probably not.
Do you remember your first anime audition, and is it what you thought it would be?
I remember it somewhat. I remember I just talked to several people that had done it before me, so I knew a little bit about what to expect. But at the same time, it was very difficult for me at first to try and match in. You know, you've got the script, you've got the screen.
Right.
It's the constant head up, head down, trying to match the voice, the actual flaps of the character. It's the most difficult thing.
Was that Soul Hunter?
Soul Hunter, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the actual first one that I did.
Yeah, both you and Robert. And friends in that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Robert? Do you remember?
My first was Blood Rain
Okay, yeah.
for ADV, a couple of bit parts, and the first thing that made it different from any other audition was the limitations placed on your performance by what's going on the screen.
Right.
And because it took me a while to get into that rhythm where you do have to actually match the flaps. You can't just do whatever you want and hope that someone will edit it later. There has to be some continuity. I found that restraint at first to be uncomfortable, and then I found it to be an interesting.
Exercise.
Yeah, it's an interesting exercise in expressing yourself within strict parameters, because that makes it a little more difficult. You have to be a better voice talent to do that. It's not like it's on the face of it, it looks like you're completely limited to when the guy, and that you have no artistic interpretation at all. But the linguistic differences and the time differences, as far as the expression, make you work harder to express yourself, to express the
fun.
ideas.
It's
Yeah.
exciting to me to see if I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what can I get away with her mouth closed?
Exactly. It really pushes your creativity, and so the thing that I found uncomfortable at first is now one of the things I like the most about it. So.
Kind of grow into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a big puzzle for me when I'm trying to fit everything in.
I'll bet. I always think when I screw up, he can fix that in the edit. So.
Yeah, yeah.
He always does.
How about you, John Paul? You remember what your first?
With ADV?
Yeah, and what it was like for you is how it was different, what you may have done before.
God, I can't remember the first one. I really
It
don't.
might have been Ninja Resurrection, but I'm not sure.
Okay. But I remember that it had been, a couple of years since I'd done animation.
Right.
And you guys had the new one. So if we miss the flap, they're digital. They go back and
Right.
do it somewhat. So I remember that was the big change from the old days when I first started, where you had to get it right or re-record.
Right.
And so that was, I remember, okay, this is cool. We don't have to hit it every time. We just got to get it as close as we can. Which actually, talking about the difficulty of that can get in the way of building the character a lot of times. I mean, so personally, I try not to worry about that so much as getting that character to where we think it ought to be.
I came in first on a crowd noise. That's my introduction. And it was pretty intimidating because I'd never seen a sound booth before. And, I think, okay, I'm sort of a ham. I can do this. I do voices all the time. So I go in the booth with all these people and I'm intimidated because they've all done it before and they're having a blast and they're comfortable and yeah, it's sort of meek. Ah! Was that right? Was that bad? Anyway. But then I got another email that they were having auditions and I went in. I think it was for Soul Hunter.
Yeah.
And I was so flattered when I got picked and I was like, well, how did you do that? And you just listen to the type of whoever, so there's kind of not so much bias and it doesn't matter what you look like or anything, which is a bonus.
Oh, come
So-
on.
Yeah.
So, it was fun.
Okay, so being a mostly solo process, how do you work around not always having the other performers' recordings to work against? You know, like you got the Japanese going on and stuff.
It's about reaction, I guess. You can tell the emotion in somebody's voice even if you can't understand the language itself. It's pretty much how I handle it. Is just trying to, if I don't have the English to work with, it's a little more difficult trying to figure out where their line ends and yours begins.
Right.
But, it's just listening for particular sounds and the range that they're using and how the character would react to that person.
Right. Anybody else?
Same for me. First, I read the script so that I know what the other person is saying to me or at me, and then I react emotionally to the level that's already on the screen with the Japanese.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the same thing.
Right, I was going to say I revert to the dialogue, the written dialogue up
Right.
front and after to find out exactly what's going to happen right there if it's not, you know. But then you can use their emotional context to pull. You can pull from what they've established as the emotional context too.
Mhm.
If you do hear the Japanese meaning.
Right. If I push the button in time.
Yeah.
How about you, Katie?
Um,
Is it a lot harder against the Japanese, or is it pretty much the same, or how do you approach
I don't
it?
think it's a lot harder. It's more fun when somebody else is already gone.
Right.
Maybe they have an inflection in their voice that you can work off of or gives you a different idea
Mhm.
for the tone. It's not so bad to be first.
Yeah. Yeah. So people get a little stuck on, you know, if all that's on there is the Japanese, then they say, well, I don't understand Japanese, so how can I possibly know when to go? And if you get past that and just use it as a placeholder,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a cue for emotional content. then-
You can still understand what's going on.
Right.
I
'Cause
mean,
you have the
it's
script
like-
there. And
Can I mention Triplets of Belleville, which was really good? I watched it recently. And
Sure.
there's no English track on it,
Mhm.
and there's no dialogue in the whole movie, but you don't need it. 'Cause you
Right.
can see what's going on. So, I mean, to say that when you watch the Japanese, you can still be emotionally involved. Can't believe I said that. And you put yourself there, project.
Yeah.
I just wait until I hear the name of my character said. So it's just like, to me, blah, blah, blah,
Go.
blah, blah, Kenshiro. Blah, 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 Kenshiro.
Right.
Okay, that's me. It's time to
You
So
you
you
all
should-
usually just point at you and go.
Mhm.
Gives you incentive to learn
Can I
Japanese,
sit?
I guess.
Chris, in this episode, Toby finds his long-lost brother, only to have him seriously wounded by Sangha.
Mm.
Do you think he's dead, or do you think he survived?
From the looks of that blow, I think he's dead, personally. But at the same time, we've got a healer in the bunch.
Right.
So I think it looked pretty harsh. I mean, he got a pitchfork through the chest. And
Yeah.
so it was.
What did Kenshiro say to you when you were in the Jeep?
I can't remember.
See, you gotta listen to Kenshiro.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
said,
that's
you
my
will
problem.
find him and he will be okay.
He was okay. I think
He
there's
didn't say, you will find him, he will be okay, and then he'll be pitchforked.
He's a young guy. I don't think I should kill him off. I'd be happy. I think the story would end up a lot better, series down, if he actually does live.
Right. Keep that aspect to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And John Paul, after your character's killed, we find out that his son arrives. Your son arrives at the outskirts of town. Do you think he'll follow in your character's footsteps, or do you think he's there to help out? What do you think he'll do, knowing that he's Sanga's son?
Oh, he's just then probably, I mean, and see the script, he's probably the same character I am. Instead of bringing him back from the dead, they brought his son in. And the same thing's going to happen to him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he'll create a lot of problems, and then good will win over evil, and
Because
everything
nobody
will be
can come
okay.
from Sanga, right?
Right? No. He's got to get chewed up just like his dad did, I'm sure.
Right. Where are you from? And if you're not from Austin, what brought you here?
I was born in Texas. My father was in the military, so we moved around quite a bit. I came to Austin for school. I went to college here. Just stuck around afterwards.
Okay, cool.
I was born in New York, Rockville Center, Long Island, and my family came here when I was a kid, and then I left as a teenager and ended up coming back here with a rock and roll band back in the late 80s.
Yeah, good place for a band.
Mhm. Yeah, Austin was a very good place to be at that time for music.
Did the band break up?
Well, yeah, sort of. One guy died. Another guy was such a hopeless drug addict that I just eventually just dissolved it and went to school and got an English degree, which I'm not using for anything either. So
I'm going to get a degree. Well, sort of using it, pretty much.
good.
But you're in a band now, though, right?
I play with a jazz orchestra. I sing with a jazz orchestra actually,
Right.
called Acme Song Company.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I gotta come see you guys.
Tonight,
Mother Egan's.
Mother Egan's tonight. Come check it out.
I like that area.
Not you people, because that's just a long time.
Different.
It was good.
What you, John Paul?
I was born and raised in Brazoria County in southeast Texas. But I was here in Austin in the 80s, early 80s, and then since was based in New York for a while and then in Seattle. But I came back to Austin for the lifestyle as I ran into middle age, and things, what you want out of life changes, and I wanted a simpler lifestyle, and I wanted to get back to my culture. I'm very much a Texan. I was born and raised in rural Texas,
Right.
and that still affects a great deal of what I do and how I think about things. So I came back. I'll be here from now on, I'm sure.
Great place.
Yeah.
I'm from Round Rock, Texas, which is just north of Austin. And lived here all my life. Wasn't born here. Good as born here.
Right, London, right?
Yeah. And I live in South Austin, south of the river. What up?